My name is Gord Parker. I'm a structure protection specialist with BC Wildfire. We're out here at the Chilliwack Fire Camp base, and we're going to put together a few basics on structure protection setups. Due to the COVID-19 issue that's going on in the province, we're unable to bring that training to you at the 115 course this year. So we're going to try and put together some videos for you on some of our basic setups. So we'd like to start by familiarizing everybody with our standard setup for structure protection. We're going to have a pump feeding a closed loop system that's going to support our sprinkler operation. We're going to start here at the Mark III, the pump that's going to support the system. So the key components here are number one, the pump, the Mark III pump. We've got a 10-foot suction line with a foot valve on the end. We have a toolbox that comes with the kit. We've got our fuel line and our fuel tanks. We have dual fuel tanks hooked up to this pump. When we have a good water supply, a lake, a creek, something that we're not going to exhaust, we can go to dual lines. If we're working off a bladder or a very small tank or something like that, we go to a single line. That's all we need. That's all the fuel will be required to use. We've got a 10-foot anti-vibration line that goes to a back check valve. From the back check valve, we have a three-way valve here. So a couple key things to note. On the foot valve, you want to make sure it's functioning. Just depress it, spring loaded. If it depresses and pushes back, the plunger in there is good. It's going to hold the water inside the suction hose. We want to make sure that the suction line is wrench tight. Once it's on, we want to make sure that the priming port is wrench tight. We don't want any air getting into our system. It makes it difficult to prime the pump. We've got our anti-vibration line, again leading out to the back check valve, and our three-way valve. If we're working off of a fixed water supply, we may want to take this line, which is part of our closed loop, move it back into our bladder in order to feed back or bleed off any water back into our bladder so we don't waste any water. This line can be sent out to the inset or to the area that we're going to cover. Another three-way can be put in, and then we can start our loop system for sprinklers there as well. In this case, we've got one big loop coming off our main three-way here. So we're going to talk about the closed loop system now. And really the closed loop system is no different than the grid systems that you'll find in municipal water systems. So what we have is water feeding from both directions through a loop. So it balances the pressure out through our system. As we turn our sprinklers on, we're going to make sure that we get a nice balanced, even flow to all of the sprinklers. If we were to do a dead end system, just a straight line with a cap at the end or a nozzle at the end, sprinklers in the middle, we're going to see a lot of pressure on the sprinklers closest to the pump. And as we get further away from the pump in a dead end system, we're going to get less and less volume and pressure out of those sprinklers. So in order to try and put as many sprinklers and up to 20% more sprinklers than a dead end system, we use the loop system wherever we can. So with the loop system, we lead off from our three-way. To a water thief. The water thief takes the 1.5 inches and then it discharges it into a 3/4 inch gate valve here. So we can control the flow of each of the sprinklers. And again, we have water feeding from both sides. So we're going to keep that pressure balance through our system. And please keep in mind that we don't want to protect gravel. This is for a simulated purpose only, and it's basically the only location we have to get this done. So if we follow along our line, we'll see that we have a series up to 10 large sprinklers, 1-inch sprinklers capable of 10 gallons a minute on our closed loop system. So when you're thinking about laying your hose line out, think about where you're going to put the hose. We got a great spot here. We've got gravel, non-combustible. Try and avoid putting your hose line into combustible materials. We want to make sure that our hose is going to stay intact when the ember storm comes in, or it's not going to be impacted by ground fire. So really pay attention to where your hose is going. You may have to do a little bit of fuel management around your hose line if you don't have something like this in the area you're going to protect. But really think about protecting your hose line. When we talk about the closed loop system too, is you don't necessarily have to run all the way around the house. If we've got a great area in the front of the house, we've got the driveway, we've got gravel or pavement, great spot, non-combustible material to put our hose line in there, to put our loop system in, and then from there we can run EconoFlow hose to the back if we want to run sprinklers there. Think about, again, protecting your supply hose line for your sprinkler systems. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the impact sprinklers that we carry in the SPU. In our system, in our closed loop system, we're using the large 1-inch sprinklers. And these are impact sprinklers. And the reason they're called impact sprinklers is because the stream of water coming out of the nozzle forces this arm away, and it's spring loaded, so on the return, the spring hits the side of the sprinkler here, and it moves the sprinkler in a 360-degree rotation. It has a diffuser arm and a pin on the side where we can screw the pin into the stream, and really what that does is it breaks up the stream. It cuts down on the distance, but it breaks the water into more droplets for the mid-range and close range of the sprinkler. The 1-inch sprinkler is capable of around 10 gallons a minute, depending on the nozzle size, but for the most part 10 gallons a minute, and it's got a 50-foot radius in coverage, so 100-foot diameter coverage at around 50 psi. And these things work really well at 50 psi up to around 70 psi. We increase the pressure too much, so if we're running 150, 200 psi pressure on these sprinklers, the stream is so powerful that it keeps the arm from coming back and you won't get any sprinkler movement at all. The arm just stays out. The other sprinkler that we carry, the spike sprinkler that we carry in the SPU, is the smaller 1/2-inch sprinkler. Very similar to the 1-inch. It's an impact sprinkler as well. It's a 360-degree rotation. We are starting to get some sprinklers that have 180-degree settings on them, and they can also be converted to a 360-degree sprinkler as well. Main difference here is smaller gallonage, about 4.5 gallons a minute at 50 psi, and you're going to look at about a 40-foot radius, 80-foot diameter coverage in this sprinkler. So really it comes down to what type of water supply you have, what type of coverage you require, on which sprinkler you're going to select. So from our sprinklers, we make a connection with either a 5/8 or a 3/4 inch EconoFlow hose, basically a garden style hose that will connect to our main closed loop system. On the SPUs, we have 15-foot lengths, 30-foot lengths, and 50-foot lengths of EconoFlow hose. So whatever length you need to get to the location you're going from your loop system, we have just about every variety of hose length that you could need. And the key with the EconoFlow hose too is keep it from kinking. So if you have too much hose, very good chance you're going to get a kink in the system. So try and gauge the right amount of hose for the need as well. It's one of those things that we always run out of as well. So when you're running EconoFlow hose, again, because we're dealing with a narrower hose, we're going to see increased friction losses. So try and keep your EconoFlow hose lays to around 100 feet or less. Where the EconoFlow joins the main closed loop trunk line, we have the water thieves. Gate valves, we can open and close the valves so we can actually shut down individual sprinklers. And what we like to see is either a single gate valve coming off of the water thief, or if you have gated Ys, you can have a gated Y where you can get 2 EconoFlows off of 1.5 inch to 3/4 inch water thief. What we don't like to see is gated Ys on top of gated Ys. It really serves no purpose. And we get a really reduced flow out of this as well. So if you need to increase the number of EconoFlow hoses coming off of your system here, just add another water thief or put a gated Y on to the water thieves that you already have. But don't stack your gated Ys on top of each other.